Hello there, Mr. Wilson here again for what is episode 2 of this series, How Do I Help My Child With? And this episode is on adding decimals. Now, in the previous episode, we looked at adding whole numbers, adding integers. So in this one, we're going to have a look at adding decimals. So, some keywords to take into account then. Well, the most common method for adding decimals, just like with adding integers, whole numbers, is the column method. So pretty much everything that I explained in the last video using the column method for integers applies to adding decimals. There is just a couple of things we've just got to be careful of. We're also going to look at place value, and I'll show that in a second, and making sure that we fix that decimal point, and I'll show that in a second. So let's have a look at a typical question then. If I was given a question like this, so I was given the question, it might not be this question as such, but it might just be the question, what is 76.2 plus 48.6? Then immediately I would be representing that as a column addition. Now again, to represent it as a column addition, you write one number above the other. And this, what I'm about to explain next, is especially easy to do on squared paper, because you have to make sure that the decimal point lines up. So in this, when I've written the numbers out as a column addition, I've made sure that the decimal points line up so that my final answer will also have a decimal point in the same position on this line. So if you were, for example, lining up these numbers, even though they're different sort of lengths of numbers, this has got hundreds and tens, and this one doesn't have a second decimal place, you still have to line up the decimal points, and then when you add them, the decimal point will be in the same place. So the decimal point stays fixed, and then you have to make sure then that the place values are all lined up correctly. That tends to be the biggest mistake with adding decimals, is that students don't line them up correctly. So they either try to line them up, so it's quite easy when the numbers are the same length, but if the numbers are different lengths like this, sometimes students try to line up the numbers on the right with each other, and as you can see here, this would be incorrect because the decimal points are not lined up. The correct representation would be this, and you leave that blank because it's about lining up those decimal points. So when you are helping your child or your student that you're helping, please make sure that you are sort of looking out for the fact that they need to line up that decimal point. But the process is basically the same as what it is when adding whole numbers, right? So we add the numbers from right to left. So 2 plus 6 is 8. And then we've got our decimal point in the correct place. I like to put the decimal point on straight away so then I don't forget it. It's very easy to forget the decimal point in the final answer. 6 plus 8 is 14, but I can't put 14 in that box, so I'm going to have to exchange, and I talked about this in the last video, exchange 10 of those for a 10. So I put the 4 here, and then I carry the, sometimes referred to as carrying over, but technically it's called an exchange. The 1, now some people put it below the line there, and some people put it above the line there. It doesn't necessarily matter where you like to put it. I always like to put it above the line because then I've got all my numbers together. And then I do 7 plus 4 is 11, plus the 1 is 12, so the 2 must go there and carry the 1, and then that is the only value in this place value column, so there must be 1 there. So the final answer is 124.8. So without a calculator, this is the standard method for adding decimals, the column addition method. Students at GCSE are expected to be comfortable with this method. They're expected to be able to add decimals without a calculator using this method. So this method applies for students down at in Key Stage 3 all the way through Key Stage 4 and even used at Key Stage 5 as well. So it's very important that students have this technique as part of their sort of toolkit to be able to use in non-calculator situations. Okay, that will wrap it up for this video. If you have any questions about anything thing that I've discussed in this video, then please let me know in the comments below. But all I want to say is thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.